Now, for 3 days straight, we've been hearing on television, oh, the violence at the Nevada Democratic Convention from Sanders supporters. And I was with Bernie Sanders as he went to a couple of rallies yesterday in Northern California, and I watched as reporters interviewed him. Every single reporter asked him about the so-called violence. It's so easy for the Clinton campaign to throw a meme out there, a talking point, and have all the news unquestioningly followed. Oh yeah, no, the violence happened. Oh, they threw chairs, oh my God. Now, one of the ways that they do that is they have their people that are in charge of PR put the statement out, and then they get people from the Nevada Democratic Party who are already pissed at the Sanders supporters for booing them too loudly. They put out an outrageous letter. And then they get surrogates like Barbara Boxer, who pretends to be friendly with Bernie Sanders. And I don't know their relationship, and maybe they were friendly in the past. Here's what I'm positive of. She's not on his side right now. Anything else that she's pretending to do is disingenuous. She's a Hillary Clinton surrogate. She went to the Nevada convention, which I don't know what she's doing there. She's from California. And said, oh, if you boo me, you're booing Bernie Sanders. No, you're a Hillary Clinton surrogate, and you were trying to move those proceedings along in a way that seemed clearly unfair based on what I've described before, the voice votes. Okay, the yays and the nays. The yays are mild, the nays are tremendous, and they go, yes, the yays have it. Barbara Boxer comes out there, calm down. Yeah, if you boo me, you're booing Bernie Sanders. But you're not with Bernie Sanders. So if that wasn't enough, she goes on TV and says this.
I did fear for my safety, and I fortunately had a lot of security around me. And I did call Bernie a couple of times, and he did phone me back last night, and he was very distressed about it, and it was a very warm conversation. And I told him, he expressed shock that his people would do it. I did tell him the vast majority of those Bernie supporters were sitting in their chairs. They were fine. But there was this group of 50 to 100 people. They were not young people, they were older people, and that he ought to check out to see who these people are. I expect Bernie to get a hold of this whole situation. That's what I expect from a leader.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders should go down to Nevada in the middle of a campaign and check out who those 50 to 100 people are. By the way, he should also check out to see if they're really Bernie Sanders supporters, given that Hillary Clinton's campaign brags about how they pay people online to cause trouble for Bernie Sanders. Okay, but most of all, Barbara Boxer says she feared for her safety. She's just beseeching Bernie Sanders to jump in there and show leadership by admitting that he's at fault. Yeah, you're speaking for Bernie Sanders, right? Or perhaps you're a Hillary Clinton surrogate who's looking to do a hatchet job on him on TV. Now, we're going to get back to whether Barbara Boxer actually feared for her safety, and I have video on that. But first, let's address this point of whether there was violence at all. The chair throwing, oh my God, they threw a chair. Now, there's cops in the room, wall-to-wall cops, no arrests, no assaults, nothing, okay? There's people videotaping throughout the entire place, and they're live streaming. They don't have a chance to edit or any of that, right? And then all these videos come out. Is there any chair throwing? Is there any violence on any of those tapes? No. But CNN's been saying it for 3 straight days because they don't do journalism, they do propaganda. So finally, there's a videotape of a guy picking up a chair. Now I'm going to show that to you, and let's see if he threw it or if something else happened. Not only did he not throw the chair, they hugged him afterwards. They hugged it out. Now, were people angry there? Yes, they were angry. Because here was a woman who came out and said, okay, we're going to have a vote. And we showed it to you now how many days in a row where they do this comical vote where the voice vote is clearly for the nays. And she goes, yes, it's for the nays. And she did it 2-3 times throughout the day, right? So, and then there's 56 guys who are Sanders supporters who are not allowed in. They should investigate whether that's real or not real, or if they really had their papers or not. It's impossible to determine whether you're a Sanders supporter or a Hillary Clinton supporter at this point, whether they should have been allowed in. But of course, CNN doesn't care about that. All the media doesn't care about that. Oh, they don't even cover it, let alone if it's ever brought up, dismissed. Oh, no. The establishment is always right. If they disqualified them, they must have been, by definition, justly disqualified, right? So I've seen that 1,000 times. But you said chair throwing. In that anger, the guy picks up a chair, but he doesn't throw it. And all the other Sanders supporters come around, put the chair down, and they hug him. These are the violent Sanders supporters? And in the midst of that rule breaking by the Democratic Party, wouldn't you have been angry? Like, what do you want them to do, right? This is like, are you mad that they were too loud? But first of all, you called for a voice vote. You're telling them to be loud. That's what you do in a voice vote. Who's louder? I mean, the charges against the Sanders supporters are mind-numbing. So there was no violence. It was a lie. They just didn't like that they couldn't get away with the rule breaking. But you caught us, and that was annoying. Stop catching us like that. Know your role and be quiet about it. Sorry, they're not going to be quiet about it. I got a suggestion for you guys. Why don't you stop breaking the rules, and then perhaps there'd be nothing to get upset about. By the way, for the 18th time, let me say, Hillary Clinton won Nevada. You didn't have to go to all this stuff. If her delegates showed up at the counties, and in this case, if she had more delegates here, all you had to do was follow the rules and you would have won anyway. But that's not in your nature. You want to steamroll people, and when they refuse to get steamrolled, you blame them. Okay, now let me get to more facts for you guys. PolitiFact said no evidence of chair throwing. They also, of course, PolitiFact, I think, has an enormous pro-establishment bias, not conservative or liberal. Like, what did official authorities say? Well, then check, right? But even they were in the midst of I don't know about, did the 56 count? Did they not count? I'm going to side with the establishment. But even them, in the midst of that, said, well, there's no evidence at all of chair throwing, right? And then you go to NPR. NPR had reported violence. So their ombudsman and public editor, Elizabeth Jensen, looked into it. And she also had Beth Donovan, NPR's senior Washington editor, look into it because, it's already on the air, right? They had already called it violence several times. So once they looked into it, here's what they found. Quoting Jensen here, Donovan and I disagree on this, on the assertion by the reporters that there was violence. She says, violence, which NPR often uses to describe events in war zones, seems too strong a term to me based on the evidence I have seen so far. And the politics team's own decision to avoid the word thrown renders this online-only introduction to Keith's piece misleading. So they're saying here, Donovan and her agree with each other and disagree with the original reporting from NPR. No, there was not violence, and your report on that was misleading. By the way, I'm expecting an apology and a retraction from almost all of the mainstream media. Where are you guys? Are you going to run 24-hour coverage about how wrong you were now that all the public editors and fact-checking people that are looking into it can't find a single piece of evidence showing violence? Yes, there are calls afterwards where terrible things are said to Roberta Lang, who was a party chair. They should investigate that. But that isn't the same as violence at the convention, which is what you guys said. In fact, if you remember, and by the way, we don't know who sent in those messages, and that has not been verified at all. Whoever it was, there should be consequences to that, whether they're Bernie Sanders supporters or not. But you can't even make assumptions about that, and that certainly has nothing to do with Bernie Sanders, and certainly has nothing to do with what happened at the convention, okay? So I remember a certain Barbara Boxer, senator from California, telling me that she felt that her safety was threatened. Well, that's interesting, because like I said, there's a lot of video, and it turns out there's video of her leaving the convention. Let's watch. A person in fear for their safety blowing kisses to the crowd. That's not usually how it goes down. Now, I assume, based on the context, that those were sarcastic blown kisses, especially given what appeared to be a middle finger at the end, but I'm not positive about that either. The video gets cut off there. You saw it with your own eyes. But sarcastic or otherwise, a person worried that they're about to get hurt, and in the midst of tremendous violence, isn't going around going, nothing but wall-to-wall lies from the establishment. And then they wonder, why haven't you bowed your head already? Because this is exactly what we're sick of.